Is the Insta360 X5 worth it for the nighttime pure video mode? Take a look for yourself and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So this video is an excuse for me to test out the pure video mode on the Insta360 X5 and see how good that looks in low light. I gotta get some groceries, late night shopping run, and so I figured I'd use this opportunity. The camera in the back here that's getting me is the FX2, and so I figured it'd be a good opportunity to also see how that compares with I put that on auto ISO, and so this is what you see. It is 10 o'clock. It's just past 10 o'clock at night. The key thing that I wanted to share as we're testing out this example or testing out the capabilities and the quality of the pure video mode. Everything is naturally lit just through street lights and everything. Actually, I should open up the overhead to allow as much light in as possible. But anyway, the theme, it's a gear focus theme of today's vlog. Some things I wanted to kind of reflect on. I was reading today earlier that a focus isn't something that you get or you add more of. Rather, focus is that which is revealed when you remove that which is not necessary. And so it's the analogy of what's it called? It's the analogy of chiseling a sculpture, right? You got to remove as much of that marble as possible in order for you to have exactly and precisely what you're looking for. And so, and this brings me to the reflection of and the thought of what camera gear or brand is important to you, and why do I use currently the tools that I have. I've had the FX2 for a couple of days now. It finally arrived from B&H, and I gotta say, I really like it. I'm gonna share more of it and my learnings from this camera. It's actually, although I guess there's some elements in the sense that it is from the FX line, but it is seemingly different from the FX30 and the FX3 in terms of the way that I use it. And perhaps it's the novelty factor which has me reaching for the FX2 over the FX3 and FX30 or even the ZD-1. But there's certain things that surprised me about it, and I'm gonna share some of those experiences as time progresses. But the thing that I wanted to share was with relation to why, well, like, I guess in my experience, what have I found are the advantages and disadvantages, pros and cons, between using cameras from Canon, Panasonic, and Sony, and who it might be for. And in this case, we can add to the mix Insta360 as well, since what I'm capturing here and how I'm capturing it is unique to this. And so in my experience, if I were to just kind of lay it down, Canon ergonomically is probably the best, right? These guys, if you don't know, Canon actually has a long history doing business in medical imaging and medical supplies type of stuff. And I've read that when Canon is designing its cameras, they actually work with people who know about human anatomy and design and use case. And so that's why when you hold a Canon body, typically, it is something that feels good in the hand. Some of the best feeling cameras that I have held in the hand have been cameras like the 5D Mark III, the R5, R10 from the crop sensor. Despite it being small, it still feels good in the hand. Even the M50 felt pretty good in the hand. And the M6 Mark II, not so much, but it's also a very small camera to begin with. The G7X Mark III felt good in the hand. It's not only the shape of it, but also the texture and the grip and all of that. And so ergonomically, it feels good. Sony, on the other hand, is probably on the opposite side. It's got a very chiseled look and feel, but it's something that's easily addressed, in my experience, by simply getting a small rig cage. As long as that grip feels good in the hand, we're good. And as long as I have some place to place my thumb, then everything's good to go. Panasonic, I guess it's a hit or miss. Cameras like the GH4, GH5, G85, these micro four thirds cameras, they actually feel really good in the hand. However, other cameras like the S1H, it doesn't really feel that good in the hand. It's a little bit more clunky, sharper edges, and so ergonomically they're not where that's at. Now, when it comes to photos, in my experience, I feel like shooting RAW on Canon is probably the one that gives the best results. Not probably. In my experience, it's the one that's the easiest to work with in terms of the raw images. That's we're talking about RAW specifically. Now, Sony has really good raw images as well, but I feel like I need to put in a little bit more work to get it to where I'm at. And the thing that I've noticed is with Sony, there's a lot more detail in the shadows in RAW format than there is in Canon. However, I feel like Sony also tends to expose on the brighter side. So if your highlights are overexposed, then there's not much more to recover. Compared to Canon, I feel like I can extract a lot more from the highlights than I normally would. And maybe it's a technique factor, is just the way that I'm exposing, and it could very well be that they're both similar, but I do know that both of their sensors are different. And so there might be some validity to the assumptions that I'm making based on the experience that I've had. And so now on the other side, now RAW is great in the sense of if you take a picture and you want to be able to manipulate it and edit it and polish it up. However, on the flip side, there's the thought which I've gravitated towards more and more. I found this prevalent with micro four thirds cameras. I felt like, especially photos from like the G85 and even the GH5, assuming I've had the appropriate amount of exposure and light to feed that small sensor, I've still found that the images that come out of that, the JPEGs, are really nice. Canon, on the other hand, doesn't. I really don't feel like they've got some, but they have like the JPEGs that they give. There's nothing to write home about, and there isn't any kind of like option where I can bake in a look or a LUT or something that would spice up the images. And so they have some picture profiles, but again, it's nothing that's really worth writing home about. Sony on the other hand, and one of the things I like is that I don't know if this is the case with the older cameras, but with the newer cameras, because you can import a LUT and you can bake it into the video, it also does this for the JPEGs as well, which is great, because once you take these pictures and you want to transfer these images quickly via Wi-Fi to your phone and then share them with friends and family, it's so quick. Like even last night, I had the FX2 with me with the 20-70, and we were with family and I was nabbing photos, and it was nice, especially with the fact that it's got a mechanical shutter and you get the haptic feedback. But I took a bunch of photos. I don't normally take photos. Usually my way of taking photos is to take video and extract frames from that, even in the very moment in which I took the video. But I think I was attracted to the high resolution reality that the FX2 is, which is the 32 or 33 megapixels, which is also the same case with the cameras like the Canon EOS M6 Mark II. It's like a 32 megapixel sensor, and so as a result, I would take pictures with that when I was using it for photos. And so I found myself taking a lot more pictures. With Panasonic, they now have the ability to bake in a LUT, despite the fact that their JPEGs just in standard look great. But if I could bring in a LUT, that's even better. And so JPEG situation, I think Panasonic and Sony have it in the bag. I know my Fuji friends here, and I have several friends with Fuji cameras. Yokohari, shout out to you. Ahmed Eid. Thought is that Fuji has these recipes, but I am told that you have to dial it in. And once you've dialed it in, then you're good to go. But it still takes that work to dial in the look with the Fujifilm film recipes. And so One of the things that I do feel now, outside of the photos, whether it's RAW or JPEG, you also have the reality of video. Now, with video, um, between these three brands, if it comes to something like being on sticks, right? It's fully stabilized. Then I don't think it really matters, except that I'm talking about controlled environment. All three brands have great cameras that do good video, given that you don't have any time limits, record limits. Nowadays, with the newer cameras, you really don't. But the thing that you're going to have to deal with is thermal management issues. And in my experience, the cameras that have the least amount of thermal issues are Sony. Simply because of the fact that they got a fan built in. Canon has some of those type of what's it called? They do have some of those. Some cameras that have good thermal management, but Sony, like I've been able to record Sony in a context like this in the car, and it's got sunlight hitting it directly, and as a result, it still continues to record without any issues. And so that's something that I feel like is worth mentioning. So definitely that. And then on top of that, if you go beyond it being on sticks, thermal management issues, the idea of being able to bake in a look also translates to video. Panasonic and Sony have that. Canon does not. When it comes to stabilization, Canon really gives you digital stabilization, which in my experience has not been that good. I have not tried it with the newer cameras, but the last Canon camera I used with digital stabilization, I'm not talking gyro flow where I'm using an external capture thing, but I'm talking more along the lines of the digital enhanced IS that Canon has. And so it's not that good. And the last one was the R6 Mark II, Canon R8. I haven't rented any other Canon cameras. However, I am tempted to check out the PowerShot V1. And so it simply because of the convenience of it. Yeah, with relation to video, the other element is the in-body image stabilization that that Panasonic has, and Sony has. Their digital stabilization generally is not that good. The in-body image stabilization is not that good unless you're like standing, you just want to get like a regular standing shot or static shot. Their IBIS and digital stabilization is excellent. Again, if you're on sticks and you're using a super telephoto zoom, something like a 150 to 600 millimeter lens, and you're zooming in deep, having digital stabilization and IBIS and lens stabilization combined, it works really well together. However, if you're not using a super telephoto zoom, then the thing to consider really now is, I would say, simply gyro data used in gyro stabilization for via gyro flow. And so that's worked out really well. Now, I know some Blackmagic cameras also capture gyro data, but I personally have not used any of the Blackmagic cameras. I can't really comment on that. But yeah, the thing that I like about Sony over any other camera that has gyro data capturing built into it is that with the Sony, whenever you're using an electronic lens and you zoom, not only is the movement data being captured, but the very focal length with which that you're zooming in and out with is being captured. I cannot stabilize in that manner with any other brand when I use gyroflow, because that information is not captured because I'm using an external capture device for the gyro data. So it really comes down to what are your preferences, what is your workflow. I know some people will be like, yo, I don't like gyroflow, I don't want to have to stabilize as an extra step. Understood, right? I know for me, gyroflow is actually really fast. I don't use catalyst browse, but the essence of being able to use the opposite argument is that, hey, I'll just use a gimbal. Great. What I prefer, in fact, the best image quality is when I take the camera, I put it on the gimbal, and then I gyro stabilize any small bumps and jerky movement that might have happened because of the gimbal, that now it becomes a super smooth combo. And so the only camera I'd be able to really do that with is a Sony. Panasonic, if you enable IBIS, it would work well with that combination as well. And with Canon, I would have to have like an Insta360 Go 3 mounted to it in order to be able to capture the motion data. But I'll be stuck with whatever focal length is that. But then again, if I'm on a gimbal, I'm not going to be zooming into different focal lengths. However, that's the advantage of using Sony, is that if you're not on a gimbal and you're zooming, all of those various zoom focal lengths that information is captured in the gyro data, and therefore you can stabilize easily. So that's really it in relation to these are the cameras that I've used and these are the experiences that I've had. And because of the things that I value and the workflow that I have, I've gravitated towards Sony. I don't know if I'll ever go back to Canon. I could see myself checking out, dipping my toes with Panasonic, and maybe if Canon starts including gyro data in their cameras, that might be a consideration. But other than that, that's it for now. Let me know what your thoughts are on the pure video mode here with the Insta360 X5. You saw it up until now, so I'm basically gonna cut it here. Stay safe, guys. I'll see you soon.